How's it going, everyone? It's Caleb here, and today we are going to be talking about a horror video game on the Xbox Series X. This is a game that I've actually played before, and I've actually played through before, but this is my first time playing it on the Xbox Series X, and I wanted to talk about it with you guys because I like mascot horror games, and I've talked about mascot horror games on the channel before, but I hadn't talked about this one yet, and this one is actually really fun. This game is Bendy and the Ink Machine, and this is a cartoony horror game. It's a mascot horror game. It's a really cool one because it has a really nice retro art design. And I think it's really cool. I really like this game, actually. And like I said, this is the second time I've beaten this game. I have played it 3 different times on 3 different devices. I beat it on the Nintendo Switch. I tried out the mobile version of it, and the mobile version wasn't actually bad, like the mobile phone port. And then I played the Xbox Series X version, which is the one we're going to be talking about today. And it plays very well, honestly. It starts off a little bit rough feeling, but then once you get used to how the character moves and, the kind of the pace of the game and everything, it actually ends up being a lot of fun. This is a story about a character that basically goes back to where he used to work, and he used to work at this animation studio, and he's invited back there by his old boss. And when he goes back there, the old boss had apparently been doing some things he probably shouldn't have been doing. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on. You can find remnants of what looks to be weird rituals that they were doing. You can find eventually characters that look like they were sacrificed or something like that. It's really weird. And the characters that were sacrificed, they're cartoon characters, and that shows you that they were basically bringing cartoon characters to life using this machine that the the owner of this studio had. So it's really weird, but it's a really fun idea, and it is really crazy. And like I said, I love the art style of this game. It's got that retro cartoon look to it. Everything's got this kind of amber look to it. It looks really good. So I'm a big fan of that, actually. And overall, it's just a really fun horror game. In this game, you're going to be solving a lot of puzzles. I would almost call this a puzzle game, but then again, aren't pretty much all survival horror games some sort of puzzle game, I feel like horror games are almost always puzzle related. And it's kind of funny because I don't really like puzzle games, but for some reason, horror games just seem to usually do it better than most other style of puzzle games. I don't know why that is, but maybe it's just because they add that tense element to it where you have to solve these puzzles quickly or something can come and get you. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know, but either way, horror games just seem to do these puzzles better. And one of the things I like about this game and other horror games is that they usually follow this simple idea of keep it simple. And they do it. They keep it simple. The puzzles are simple in this game, but they're fun to solve. And it usually just ends up being trying to follow, the correct electrical cords to certain places, or ends up, being listening to audio logs and getting hints from the audio logs of what to do to get to the next area and stuff like that. And the audio logs are actually really fun to listen to. Other than just getting hints of what to do next from the audio logs, you do get a lot of backstory and lore from them. In fact, I would say the majority of this game, the majority of the lore and everything, the majority of the story is told through these audio logs. You get to learn about the people who used to work there. You get to learn about how it kind of started, this place started to go downhill, started to get a little bit creepy. Some of their experiments started to be a little bit on the wild side, and you get to basically hear about the entire downfall of this Joey Drew Studios, animation place, and it was pretty cool. The actual characters that start showing up, you see a lot of cartoon characters start popping up. The main villain of this game is actually even a cartoon. Not the main villain, because technically, the main villain created all of these guys, but the main monster in this game is a cartoon. I mean, it's basically just a really corrupted version of Bendy. And he's all distorted looking. He's got this creepy smile. He's got sharp teeth and stuff like that. He's a really creepy looking thing. He's got ink just dripping off him everywhere, and when he gets near you, the walls start getting shadowy and stuff. And it's not really creepy to me, but I can see someone younger playing this and getting creeped out. But I still think it looks cool overall, and the design of Bendy and everything, and the design of really all of the monsters that you run across look really cool, because there's all sorts of different monsters that you can run across. And you can fight a lot of them, but you cannot fight Bendy. you cannot fight Bendy. If Bendy shows up, you better hide. Probably one of my favorite characters that you meet along the way, and there's a few different versions of him, I will say, is Boris the Wolf. He is kind of your helpful friend that you meet along the way. And he's just kind of a silent character that helps you along, and you kind of want to protect him because you feel bad for him. And then bad things happen. And then you meet another one later on who is another Boris, but he goes by Tom instead, and for some reason he gives you the cold shoulder. And you meet some other kind of wacky characters. You meet a character named Alice, and Alice is, well, the first Alice Angel you meet is insane. She is like taking parts of the other living cartoons and like trying to make herself look perfect by taking parts of them for herself. Like, it's pretty messed up when you really start thinking about it. But then you meet another version of Alice, and she's like super nice. So it's really cool to see all these different characters have like these different personalities and everything. I think they did a good job of making each character feel very different, and they did a good job of even making each, like, even though they're supposed to be the same character, they have wildly different personalities based on, you know, just how complete they are, or how, you know, what they've gone through in the factory or whatever. They have completely different attitudes, and it's really cool to see all the different attitudes that these characters have. The level design is pretty good. This game is split up into chapters. You have 5 different chapters total, and I think that the majority of them are good. I'd say the first 4 chapters are probably the best, and then once you get to the 5th chapter, it's not perfect. I like the ending vault area, but I'm not a huge fan of like everything before the vault in chapter 5. But I do like the actual vault area itself, where you finally meet the final boss and everything. There's actually a few boss fights in this game. I think there's like 3 or 4 different boss fights, and they're actually all fun. I enjoyed all of the boss fights. They're pretty simple. Once you figure out what you have to do, you know, it's pretty easy to figure it out, and then you just do it. You beat the boss. You know, for example, there's like this one that's a carnival ride. It's literally a boss that is like in a carnival ride, and you have to break the bolts on the carnival ride and make the arms fall off of it. But once you like figure that stuff out, it's pretty easy. And all the boss fights, they're not difficult really. It just takes some time to figure out what to do, is what I would say. The actual replayability of this game, well, this is the second time I've replayed it, so obviously it has some replay value, but it also does give you kind of like a side option, which is kind of cool. Once you beat the game, you get this like little, like, I don't, it's kind of like a decoder, I guess you could call it. It basically lets you see invisible ink, and you can basically hold it up and you can see invisible writing on the wall that you wouldn't have been able to see in your first playthrough of the game. And it just kind of adds, you know, like more replay value of like, oh, I wonder what's on this wall, and you pull that up and you can see what's written on the wall. It's nothing crazy from what I've seen so far, but it's still a cool idea that they give you just something different to kind of make the, you know, a replay of this game feel a little bit different and just give you a little bit more gameplay. Overall, I really like Bendy and the Ink Machine. I have not played the sequel yet, but I definitely need to. I haven't played it. I have played, there's a split-off game for this all about Boris, and I have played that one, and that one's fun. And there's even a mobile game that's kind of like a mobile running game, and I've played that one too, and that one is also fun. So everything Bendy and the Ink Machine that I've played so far, I've actually really enjoyed, so I do need to play the sequel. And I can't recommend this game enough. This is a really fun game. It is really cool. It has fun puzzles to solve when there's combat. It has fun combat whenever you're getting chased by an enemy. You know, you can hide in porta potty looking things. I don't know what exactly they are. They kind of look like porta potties, but I think they're just more of like places for people to think and basically be alone, kind of like isolation booths or something. I don't know. There's a lot of good mechanics in this game that you've probably seen in other horror games. The ability to hide from enemies that when you don't have a weapon. The ability to actually fight enemies when you do have a weapon. And there's some cool abilities that you don't see in other horror games and stuff like that because of the ink physics that they have, or the ink, you know, idea that they have with this game, where you can like create objects using these little machines that turn ink into actual physical objects and stuff like that. There's some really cool mechanics here, and learning them and figuring them out and solving these puzzles is all a lot of fun. And it makes for just a really fun time overall. I really like this game. And the nice thing about this game is that even though like you have to hide from the enemy sometimes, you know, if they're like chasing you down, this isn't really a stealth game. I like it when horror games aren't really stealthy. I don't like stealth video games in general. So the fact that you can basically get through this one, and you can basically run through the entire thing, and if you get spotted, you just have to duck into one of these like isolation little booths or whatever. That's great. I love that I don't have to be super stealthy. So overall, I really like this game. It takes about 3 hours to beat. Not super long, but I think 3 hours is plenty for the price, especially because you can usually get it for really cheap. And it definitely has replay value. So go check out Bendy and the Ink Machine on the Xbox Series X. Go check it out on the Nintendo Switch or the phone as well, whatever phone version you want to pick up, because I have played that version as well, and it also is pretty fun. So go check out Bendy and the Ink Machine, and I will talk to you in the next video. You have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.